¿Qué pasa to the pack? It is Pack here. In today's video, I want to go through NBA 2K history and find the 10 greatest players ever to never reach it to the 80 overall club. These are players that have individually been fantastic throughout their careers and never had their shining moment of being in the 80 overall club. To clarify, the 80 overall club is essentially either a really good role player or a player that is a borderline all-star in the NBA. There's a lot of guys in the league that you think of. For example, Buddy Hield is a perfect example right now, who's an 80 overall in NBA 2K23, and Buddy Hield's one of the better shooters in the league. So he's really good at something. I'm going to cover all the players that have never made it in today's video. This is only from NBA 2K14 and up, so let's talk about them. If you like this kind of content, please join the pack and subscribe, and let's get it, man. The first player on this list is going to be Terrence Ross, and that was an NBA 2K20. He was a 79 overall only once in his career. And you could argue that Terrence Ross's prime wasn't even with the Magic, but it was with the Raptors. He had one game, like he's actually probably one of the worst players ever to have a 50-point game in history. He had a 50-point game. It was actually 51 points with the Raptors. He had multiple 15-point per game seasons. He was a great player. He was only a 79 overall once in his career, so he's never made the 80 overall club with the Orlando Magic. And that's really it. He is a bona fide scorer for years and years and years. Maybe you could argue he barely doesn't deserve it, but if they're a player that can drop 50 points in the game, there's no doubt that he has the potential, or he had the potential at least once in his career, to be an 80 overall club member. The next player at number 9 is Larry Sanders. He was a 79 overall in 2 different 2K games, and NBA 2K14 was a prime example where he was the second best player behind OJ Mayo. Larry Sanders was a center who was very good early on in the NBA. In fact, he had one season where he averaged 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks a game. A great defensive center who was efficient under the basket. He was a center that a lot of NBA teams would have loved to have, and he was specifically very good at defense. Because he was so good at defense, I do feel like he probably should have been an 80 overall at least once in his career, and I don't think that's really a big stretch to say. He had a pretty short career. He didn't play for a long time, but when he did play, it was always very, very good for the Milwaukee Bucks. At number 8, we have Patrick Beverly. 2 times in his career, he was a 79 overall. The most notable one is NBA 2K18, where he was a 79 overall in a team that had a bunch of 80 overall players like Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Danilo Gallinari, Lou Williams, and Austin Rivers. In fact, I see Austin Rivers and I think if Austin Rivers was in the 80 overall club, I cannot imagine Patrick Beverly was never in the 80 overall club. Sure, is he really only good at defense and maybe hitting a couple open threes? Sure, but he is one of the better perimeter defenders in our era of watching basketball. He's a 3-time all-defensive player on only playing perimeter defense. You cannot deny that Patrick Beverly was elite at something and therefore should have been in the 80 overall club. I know that you could argue that because he was only good at perimeter defense, that's not enough to raise someone, but I do argue that if you're an elite at that one thing, you probably do deserve the 80 overall club, even if it's just once. The next one at number 7 is Tristan Thompson, 79 overall, 3 different seasons. The most notable one is in NBA 2K20, where he was a 79 overall. Tristan Thompson was one of the better players in a lot of the NBA finals that the Cleveland Cavaliers went to. The most notable one, though, is the NBA championship in 2016, where he was an integral part of that roster, helping them win the chip. Tristan Thompson was an amazing rebounding center who could play defense under the basket and finish at a high efficient rate. He was very good at what he did. He wasn't necessarily fantastic at anything, but he was a great role player. He made the all-rookie team in 2012. He clearly had expectations to be great, and he was so great that he was a 79 overall for 3 different years. But I guess 2K never believed he was good enough to be in the 80 overall club. Let me know what you guys think about that one, because that one's a debatable one. At number 6, we have Kyle Korver. So, Kyle Korver is an interesting one. He is probably the lowest rated all-star of all time. He was a 79 overall in that one season where the Hawks were the first seed. He was a 79 overall shooting guard. He was considered the 4th best player on that 2016 roster. What we can say for sure is that Kyle Korver was a sniper from the 3-point line. He could hit threes. He was one of the best players in the NBA at doing it, and he was elite at it. And he could do it in so many different ways. I argue that if you're an all-star, I do think you deserve the right to be an 80 overall club member, like at least. There's no way you're an all-star, not an 80 overall. So just straight up, I would say he is one, especially because of the field goal percentage he was shooting after threes was like so impressive that I would say Kyle Korver does deserve it. Maybe once in his career. I don't think a lot of times, but like 1 year, yeah, I do. Because I mean, he was a 79 overall for 3 different years. It's not a surprise that maybe one of those years, it probably should have been an 80. At number 5 on the list, we have Chandler Parsons, 79 overall for 3 different years. The one we're looking at is NBA 2K16 with the Dallas Mavericks. I'd argue that the Houston Rockets season was probably way more important because he was averaging 17 points per game in one season on really good efficiency. He was also an all-rookie player, so he has awards. He has really good point per game seasons. But pre-Chandler Parsons injury, he was looking like on the up and up to becoming an all-star level type of player. He was very hyped. He had a massive contract because they thought he was going to be very, very good. So no doubt that Chandler Parsons is deserving of a borderline 80 overall club member. But the fact that he never got it, even though there was 3 years where he was close, it is kind of sad to see that injuries took the opportunity of him becoming that kind of player away. At number 4, we have Nicolas Batum. He was a 79 overall for 3 different years. In the NBA 2K17 season, he averaged 15 points per game for the Hornets. He was looking very good for the Hornets for a little bit. But before that, I think his prime was the Portland Trail Blazers, where he was a really great role player. I thought he was a good defender at the time. He was hitting a lot of threes. I mean, he wasn't elite at anything, but he was good at almost everything. And I think that's what gets him to that 80 overall club member. I think this one's pretty damning for me. I mean, a 15 point per game kind of player who could play defense, was on very good teams. I do think he was at the level of an 80 overall. I mean, if you're putting Austin Rivers at that level, I do think that Batum earned that right as well. One of the greatest French players of all time. He's been in the league for a long time. I do think he earned it. At number 3, we have Thaddeus Young. He was a 79 overall player for 4 different seasons. In NBA 2K14, he was the best player on the 76ers, even though that team was terrible. Thaddeus Young has multiple good things. He was on the all-rookie team in 2008, and in 2K14, when he was on the 76ers, he did average 18 points per game that season on great efficiency. He was very good at rebounding. He was good at what he did, which was inside scoring. He was a consistent player, and he did it for a long time. There was multiple years averaging 15 for like a good 10 years in his career. A consistent player for a long time. I do think this NBA 2K14 season, he was no doubt an 80 overall. Maybe not like other ones. Maybe he was always like a borderline player, but this year, for sure, he had to have gotten it at least once. He was too good. He was too good to not get it once. At number 2 on this list, we have Darren Collison. He was a 79 overall for 4 different years. Basically, all of them were when he was on the Sacramento Kings. He was, okay, let's put it this way. For multiple seasons, he was averaging 16 points per game on 6 assists. Okay, so he was a solid playmaker and a great scorer. By the way, 48% from the field as a point guard, which was super impressive, especially back then. Like, what Darren Collison was doing for so long was too impressive to ignore. And he was on the all-rookie team, so he was expected to be good. Look, 80 overall minimum. I thought there was even years where he could have been like an 82, 83 overall. He was definitely at that level of a player. I remember he left the NBA, but I don't remember what the exact reason was. From my understanding, it was like religious reasons, wasn't it? That he stopped playing in the league. But I mean, when he was playing well, he was an 80 overall type of player. And the final player, this one's unbelievable. At number 1, Ricky Rubio. He was a 79 overall for 5 different seasons in his career. Let me put it this way. If you look at the all-time Timberwolves right now, Ricky Rubio is running 83 overall. So they consider Ricky Rubio in his prime as an 83 overall type of player, but 2K never put him at that during when he was playing. He was on the all-rookie team, and the biggest thing is he was probably one of the best playmakers in basketball for years. He was averaging 9 assists or 8 assists almost every season for like 6 years straight. He was very, very good at playmaking. And on top of that, he was a pretty good slasher. He couldn't do anything else, but playmaking-wise and slashing-wise, he was too good to ignore. I cannot believe that there was not a single season where Ricky Rubio was in the 80 overall club. That's crazy to me, especially when he was on the Timberwolves. There's no way he didn't deserve it at least once. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think all these players deserved it? And if you like this channel, please give it a sub. I'll see you guys next time.